Hey guys, Dracoslayers just dropped in Master Duel. So I'll be trying to go over some combos here in the hopes that it'll help you guys play the Zefraslayer deck. This is the list I'm running. It's all pretty standard. You have obviously the Zephyr cards. The Servant of Endymion package is just too good to pass up. Also running the bit extended package with the mythical beasts here and the Garuda, and we have a small package with Joker harmonizing. 5 Rainbow Magician is a level 1 non-tuner you can summon off of harmonizing to make Denglong with. Purple Poison is also great for cracking some boards open, uh, as well as just letting you go into rank 4s or being a low scale in a pinch. And we have a high scale to search off of our Revolution Dragon. Alright, I've got 12 replays here. First I'll be showing off the ceiling basically of the deck. So here we'll be using this just to get into an Electromite for our pen summon here. This will let us get the Zefrath. We just pop the most useless card we have here to get the Zefrath into the scale here. We'll always send the Zefranu here since it gets us access to a counter trap. And the harmonizing gets us into Denglong. This gets us another counter trap. And now we summon out the Servant as well as our level 4 target, the Garuda. This way we get to use the summon off of our fusion in order to make another rank 4 here. Now this ends on Appaloosa with 3 materials, the Hope Harbinger to negate spell cards as well as direct attacks onto it, so your opponent cannot just use one monster effect and then go into the Appaloosa in battle phase because they have to attack the Harbinger. We have the Dweller as well as the Necro Valley, which is not the best coverage necessarily since they're fairly overlapping. And then we have the Zefranu here, which we get to pop with the 9 pillars for our negate. This also searches us Providence for follow-up. We still have a scale here as well, and we have the Divine Strike. But follow-up isn't really given here. The next few replays are all just for the ceiling, and then afterwards I'll show off some combo lines you can go through to also give you follow-up if you think that's needed. Alright, in our next replay here, we're starting off with Spell Power Mastery. Always get this out as early as possible. This way you can get some spell counters onto your Servant. Very big. Once again, we scale the Zefrath, and we always want to modulate it to a scale 7 by sending our Zefranu, so we can pen that one out. Here we get the Majesty. We'll just discard our draw to show that we don't actually need it here at all. You always summon the green one off of the Synchro. That way you get to add one back again. And here we do the same shenanigans. Going to Harbinger, rank 4, normal summoning the last guy out to make an Apo. And then we have Necro Valley plus a counter trap. Sounds a bit interesting, but it definitely gets us there. Don't forget you can only use Cerberus and Jackal King scale effects if it's the only card in your scale. This is why we didn't activate the Servant any earlier. At this point, you have to set the 9 pillars because otherwise you cannot use Electromite because of the 5 rainbow. If you didn't draw the counter trap here, you could just normal summon the 5 rainbow and then scale the Zefraxy. So you don't actually need the trap in hand for this to work. You can just reverse the order by normal summoning this guy and then scaling this, and you don't get locked out of effects here. And the Electromite draw we'll just use as a discard. We'll just pretend it's not an actual card in our hand. Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't get to actually go into the Dracoslayers here, but we still end on Apo for 3. This already has 2 spell counters on it, and we end on 2 counter traps. This is the requirement for it to be live, and we have this card left over in our hand that we drew off of the Electromite. Once again, we lead with Spell Power Mastery, but be sure to go through the Mythical Beast line before scaling your Servant. We scale this right here. Use the Draco Face Off. Of course, you always get the one that you don't want. Just normal this to get another free body out. Pop it here. And we actually happen to draw the third one as the Electromite draw, but we'll just be discarding that anyways. We go into Selene here, so we can pend more from the extra deck. We made sure to use our Luster Pendulum as the other summon off of the Draco Face-Off, so we get it into rotation, and this is what enables us to go into our Ignister Prominence here. And once again, the Electromite draw becomes the discard for our Majesty Pegasus. Of course, in a real game, you could improvise here, freestyle, maybe pop off even harder, or just add more follow-up. But this is just to show off the basic lines here. So we go into Mr. Prominence, summon the green one out here. And then the green one gets to add us one back to hand. And here we just go into a 4 material Apo. We have the Hope Harbinger, we have a counter trap, the Necro Valley. This is counters on it, so you could summon it out as well, or we can keep this here for some follow-up since we still have intact scales. This hand will just lead with the face off. We'll go for a normal summon here, go straight into Electromite. Now, since we already have the Zefraslayers here, we'll be going for a Harmonizing Magician, since we have scales as well. This still gets us the Zephyr counter trap access, but we also get to go into Denglong here now. And this will of course add us another counter trap, and Denglong plus a 3 also gets us into the Ignister. Once again we summon the green, go into the fusion. Fusion summons a guy out, and we go into Big Apo, the Harbinger. We have 2 counter traps and the Necro Valley. Here we have a pretty juicy hand. We kind of want the Spell Power Mastery to resolve, so we'll just normal the Joker first. Get our scales out. Of course, always send the Zefraslayers here. Get our Denglong Axis out. Now, in this hand, we'll be using the Electromite to add the Revolution Dragon. And the Servant summons out, and you use it with the Denglong in order to get into our Ignister Prominence here. And the reason for the Revolution Dragon is because we get to actually revive the Ignister Prominence. Now, we'll be using it also to get our Majesty first for the field spell, and since we get to reuse it after it's been revived to get the green out, we can now make the fusion and end on this massive board of double counter trap, Dweller, Apo for 3 materials, the Harbinger to protect it, and a Necro Valley. Unfortunately, if we use 9 pillars, we cannot also use the Zephyr War, since we don't actually have another target for it. Also, even if we did protect the Zefraslayers with a Zephyr Providence in Graveyard, we can't actually protect it since we're under Necro Valley. So you have to choose which one of these you're going to be resolving that turn. Here we have our second to last Sealing show off. We'll be sure to resolve all of the effects here first. Grab a low scale here. Use the Providence to add our field spell. That way we have a field spell, and it also adds the Zefrath for us, which is the end goal here. We penned out a bit here, and we'll just add another field spell to pitch, so we can go to Necro Valley. We'll grab our Electromite here, and go for Astrograph. This will also get us another Zefrath back into our hand. And we end on a pretty decent board with an Apple for 3 materials. We got the Necro Valley, and we have a counter trap. This hand will once again be starting off with the Spell Power Mastery here, getting our Servant onto the field as soon as possible. And this is where the Auda's Mirage Dragon comes up as a high scale, letting us pen these out. And we'll be keeping the Jackal King in hand as a discard to go for Sky Iris. So we get to extend a bit more. We'll be summoning out the Majesty here, as well as the level 4 off of Servant. The cool thing is we get to go into the Ignister here, and we even get to revive it since we added the Revolution Dragon. Now, unfortunately, we don't get our Necro Valley here, but we do have the Dweller, which fulfills a very similar purpose. We also didn't get access to our Zephyr line here, unfortunately, but even without accessing those two things, we still have a very formidable board with the Appaloosa with 3 negates, the Harbinger with the spell negate, and protecting the Appaloosa, as well as the Dweller to shut off graveyard effects. Alright, here I'll be showing off some simpler combos. You basically still play the same way, but your end goal is a bit different. You just want to have some way to play on the following turn, and we'll just be gunning for a board of our Counter Trap, Necro Valley, and Baguska, and possibly an Appaloosa on top, since that's already pretty hard to break for most decks and just simply turns them off by itself almost. Another nice Denglong line. Denglong plus Servant gets us a level 4 as well as the Ignister Prominence access here. Just pop the field spell here. Summon the Boombuku. And here we'll just be pitching our draw off Electromite. And this board ends on the Apo, Necro Valley, Baguska. We have double counter trap. We have a low scale in hand. Zefrath is obviously our modular high scale. Using 9 pillars on the Zefranu gets us to Providence, which searches for another Zefrath in case this one gets removed from the field. And secret effect of the fusion is that pendulum monster cards in your monster zones and pendulum zones cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So this means that the Zefrath would live through something like a Duster or a Lightning Storm, but you'd probably negate that anyways because of the Necro Valley here. Quick thing to note, in case you didn't know, it says pendulum monster cards in your monster zones are obviously monsters, right? But in your pendulum zone, the card itself is still a monster card, so this is protected even though it acts as a spell card right now. Here for the next replay, once again we'll start off with Servant using Sky Iris here and popping our Majesty here. This will get us enough spell counters to go into an early Electromite here. Since we won't be summoning back what we're using as materials, we might as well just use the Cerberus here. Pop the Spent Field spell for Joker. This will get us into our Harmonizing. And we'll use the Revolution to search our low scale. Now we level modulate, scale modulate, and pen summon here. Making sure to chain the Majesty before this Franu, so we can just use our add as a discard for Necro Valley. We'll be adding the Providence here since it has the protection effect. It's not live under Necro Valley, but in case it gets outed for some reason, um, that's very good to have. And here, once again, this board, very formidable. We have the Apo, the Baguska protects it, we have the Necro Valley, double counter trap here, and we have 2 intact scales as well. Here we have another hand. We'll be leading with the Cerberus here. Using Astrograph just to add it back to hand so we can discard it off of our Majesty Search. There's not really anything better at this point to add in the combo since we only run 1 Jackal King and we prefer to make our Electromite early on. So we'll be pitching it as we planned, and whatever our Electromite draw was, in this case our second copy of Servant, we'll just be keeping around. And here we go, once again, the same board. We have the 3-mana Apo, Baguska, Necro Valley, and at least 1 counter trap. Here we even have 2. And we have Servant in hand and Zefraslayers in scale for at least some follow-up. Once again, another fairly standard hand. We'll once again be leading with the Cerberus line. And then we'll be normal summoning a card that gives us advantage here, going straight into Electromite, getting us our Zefraslayers access. We get to scale our low scale, and our Zefraslayers as the high scale. The Mirage Dragon was the add off of Electromite, so we'll be using this as our discard. And we'll be making sure to add a tuner off of our Revolution, so we can go straight into the Ignister line here. Once again, summon green, make the fusion, add a guy back. Now we'll summon this out. I don't know if I could have played this any differently, but unfortunately you can't actually use Luster Pendulum as Exceed material unless it's for a Dracoslayer Exceed, so we couldn't actually make Baguska here. So instead we opt to go for the Harbinger to protect our Appaloosa, and we still have the Necro Valley plus the counter trap. Alright guys, I hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below. I will be pulling up an image of this in Master Duel meta, or I'll just put it in the description below. I'll be linking the deck list so you can find the cards that you don't know, and it'll also show the rarities and everything.